What if I told you that charisma isn't a gift you're born with, but a science you can master? That the difference between people who command attention the moment they walk into a room and those who fade into the background isn't luck, genetics, or natural talent, but a set of specific learnable psychological triggers. Most people spend their entire lives believing that some individuals are just naturally magnetic while others are doomed to be forgettable. They think charisma is mysterious, that social skills are innate, and that you either have it or you don't. But here's the truth they don't want you to know. Every single person you consider naturally charismatic has mastered a system. They understand the psychological principles that make humans instinctively drawn to certain people and repelled by others. The most magnetic people in the world aren't lucky. They're strategic. They've cracked the code of human psychology and learned to activate specific triggers in every interaction. They know how to make their presence felt without saying a word. How to make people feel like the most important person in the room and how to become unforgettable in just minutes. This isn't about manipulation or fake charm. This is about understanding how the human brain is wired for connection and leveraging those natural patterns to become genuinely magnetic. By the time you finish this, you'll never walk into a room the same way again. You'll have the blueprint to transform from invisible to irresistible, from ignored to influential. Chapter 1. The magnetism myth that's keeping you invisible. Let's destroy the biggest lie you've been told about charisma. You've been programmed to believe that magnetic people are born different, that they have some mysterious quality you'll never possess. This is not just wrong, it's destructive. It's the exact mindset that keeps you trapped in invisibility while others effortlessly command attention and respect. The truth is that magnetism is a skill. And like any skill, it can be learned, practiced, and mastered. But here's where most people go wrong. They think being magnetic means being loud, extroverted, or constantly entertaining. They believe they need to be the center of attention, always talking, always performing. This couldn't be further from reality. Real magnetism has nothing to do with being the loudest person in the room. In fact, some of the most magnetic people are quiet, thoughtful, and deliberate in their interactions. What makes them magnetic isn't their volume. It's their presence. It's their ability to make others feel something powerful when they're around them. The most dangerous myth is that charismatic people are naturally confident and never feel nervous or insecure. This is complete nonsense. Every magnetic person has felt awkward, nervous, and out of place. The difference is they've learned to work with these feelings instead of being paralyzed by them. They've discovered that confidence isn't the absence of fear. It's acting powerfully despite feeling uncertain. Another destructive belief is that magnetism requires you to be fake or manipulative. People think that to be charismatic, you need to put on an act. Say what others want to hear or pretend to be someone you're not. This approach not only feels terrible, it's also completely ineffective. Authentic magnetism comes from being genuinely interested in others, not from trying to impress them. The real secret that magnetic people understand is that humans are hardwired for connection. We're social creatures who desperately want to feel understood, valued, and significant. The most magnetic people have learned to tap into these fundamental needs. They don't try to be interesting. They become interested. They don't seek to be impressive. They make others feel impressive. But here's what separates the truly magnetic from everyone else. They understand that every interaction is an opportunity to either add value to someone's life or drain energy from it. Most people are energy drains. They complain, gossip, seek validation, and make conversations about themselves. Magnetic people are energy sources. They listen actively, ask thoughtful questions, and make others feel energized after spending time with them. The psychological principle behind this is simple but powerful. Humans are naturally drawn to people who make them feel good about themselves. When you consistently make others feel valued, heard, and important, they begin to associate those positive feelings with your presence. This is how you become magnetic. Not through charm or wit, but through emotional impact. This is why trying to be impressive backfires. When you focus on how smart, funny, or successful you appear, you're making the interaction about you. But when you focus on making the other person feel valued and understood, you create a powerful psychological bond. They don't just remember what you said, they remember how you made them feel. The most magnetic people have also mastered the art of emotional regulation. They understand that your emotional state is contagious. If you're anxious, nervous, or insecure, others will unconsciously pick up on that energy and feel uncomfortable around you. But if you're calm, confident, and genuinely interested in others, that positive energy becomes magnetic. This doesn't mean you need to be artificially positive or hide your authentic emotions. It means learning to manage your internal state so that you're operating from a place of strength rather than neediness. When you're internally secure, others feel safe around you. When you're needy or desperate for approval, others instinctively pull away. Chapter 2. The Psychology of Instant Attraction and Why Most People Repel Others. Your brain makes decisions about people in milliseconds, long before conscious thought kicks in. This isn't opinion. This is neuroscience. Within the first 7 seconds of meeting someone, your subconscious mind has already categorized them as attractive or repulsive, trustworthy or suspicious, valuable or insignificant. Understanding this process is the key to becoming instantly magnetic. Most people are completely unaware of the psychological signals they're broadcasting. They walk into interactions focused on their own insecurities, worried about how they're being perceived, desperate to make a good impression. This internal focus creates exactly the opposite effect they're hoping for. Instead of appearing confident and attractive, they come across as needy and uncomfortable. The fundamental problem is that most people approach social interactions from a place of scarcity rather than abundance. They're thinking about what they can get from the interaction rather than what they can give. This mindset is instantly detectable and deeply unattractive. People can sense when someone needs something from them, and it triggers an unconscious resistance. Here's what happens in your brain when you meet someone operating from scarcity. Your mirror neurons pick up on their neediness. Your amygdala registers it as a potential threat to your energy, and your social brain automatically creates distance. You might not consciously know why you don't like someone, but your subconscious mind has already decided they're not safe to connect with. Contrast this with how your brain responds to someone operating from abundance. When someone is genuinely interested in you without needing anything in return. When they're comfortable with silence. When they seem content and secure in themselves. Your brain categorizes them as high value. You instinctively want to be around them more. The most repulsive behaviors all stem from this scarcity mindset. Constantly talking to fill silence. Asking questions just to keep the conversation going. Agreeing with everything someone says to avoid conflict. Name dropping to seem impressive. Checking your phone to appear busy. Fidgeting or displaying nervous energy. Interrupting to share your own stories. And seeking validation through compliments or reactions. Each of these behaviors broadcasts insecurity and neediness. They signal that you're not comfortable with yourself, that you need external validation to feel good, and that you're more focused on your own experience than on creating value for others. Magnetic people operate completely differently. They approach interactions from abundance, knowing they have value to offer without needing anything in return. This fundamental shift in mindset changes everything about how they show up in social situations. When you operate from abundance, you're comfortable with silence because you don't need to prove yourself through constant talking. You ask questions because you're genuinely curious, not because you're desperate to keep the conversation alive. You're willing to disagree or challenge ideas because you're not dependent on others' approval. You give your full attention without checking your phone because you understand that presence is a gift. This abundance mindset is based on a crucial understanding. You cannot control whether others like you, but you can control whether you add value to their lives. When you shift your focus from getting approval to giving value, everything changes. You become instantly more attractive because you're no longer needy. But here's the deeper psychology at work. Humans are naturally drawn to people who seem to have access to resources. Whether those resources are emotional, social or material, when you operate from abundance, you signal that you have plenty of these resources to share. This makes you magnetic because people want to be around those who can elevate their experience. The most powerful psychological trigger for attraction is the feeling of being truly seen and understood. Most people go through life feeling invisible, like they're just playing roles and wearing masks. When someone makes them feel genuinely seen for who they really are, it creates an intense psychological bond. This is why surface-level small talk feels so unsatisfying and why deeper conversations create connection. When you ask thoughtful questions, listen actively and reflect back what someone is really saying beneath their words. You're giving them something most people desperately crave but rarely receive. The neuroscience behind this is fascinating. When someone feels truly understood, their brain releases oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone. This chemical response creates feelings of trust, connection, and attachment. The person begins to associate these positive feelings with your presence, making them naturally drawn to spend more time with you. Chapter 3. The magnetic mindset that changes everything. The difference between magnetic people and everyone else isn't what they do, it's how they think. Their entire mental framework is fundamentally different. While most people are trapped in self-focused thinking patterns, magnetic individuals have rewired their brains to operate from a completely different paradigm. The first pillar of magnetic thinking is shifting from internal focus to external focus. Most people spend social interactions trapped in their own heads, worried about how they look, what to say next, whether they're being judged, and if they're making a good impression. This internal preoccupation is social suicide because it prevents you from being present with others. Magnetic people have trained themselves to become completely absorbed in the other person. Instead of wondering what others think of them, they become fascinated by understanding others. Instead of planning their next comment, they listen so intently that they often surprise themselves with their responses. This shift from self-focus to other focus is the foundation of magnetism. But this isn't about being selfless or sacrificing your own needs. It's about understanding a fundamental truth. When you make others feel significant, you become significant to them. When you make others feel interesting, you become interesting to them. When you make others feel valued, you become valuable to them. The second pillar is adopting an abundance mentality in all social interactions. This means approaching every encounter knowing that you have unlimited value to give without needing anything in return. You're not trying to get approval, validation, or anything else from others. You're simply offering your genuine presence and interest as a gift. This abundance mentality eliminates neediness, which is the most repulsive quality in social interactions. When you need nothing from others, paradoxically, they want to give you everything. When you're attached to outcomes, people sense your neediness and pull away. When you're unattached, they're drawn to your freedom. The third pillar is developing genuine curiosity about human nature. Magnetic people are fascinated by what makes others tick. They're interested in people's dreams, fears, motivations, and stories. This isn't surface-level curiosity about someone's job or hobbies, but deep interest in their inner world. This genuine curiosity is powerful because it's rare. Most people ask questions to be polite or to find an opening to talk about themselves. But when someone is genuinely interested in understanding you, it creates an intoxicating feeling. You feel seen, valued, and significant in a way that's almost addictive. The fourth pillar is emotional independence. Magnetic people don't need others to feel good about themselves. Their self-worth isn't dependent on external validation, approval, or reactions. This emotional independence is attractive because it signals strength and security. When you're emotionally independent, you can be authentic without fear because you're not worried about others' reactions. You can disagree without feeling threatened because your self-worth isn't on the line. You can handle rejection without being devastated because your value isn't determined by others' opinions. The fifth pillar is understanding that every interaction is an opportunity to make someone's day better. Magnetic people see themselves as positive forces in others' lives. They understand that most people are carrying stress, insecurities, and burdens. And they see every interaction as a chance to lighten someone's load. This doesn't mean being artificially positive or trying to fix everyone's problems. It means bringing positive energy, genuine interest, and authentic presence to every encounter. It means being the person others feel better after talking to. The sixth pillar is developing what psychologists call secure attachment. This means being comfortable with intimacy without being needy, being independent without being distant, and being emotionally available without being overwhelming. Securely attached people are magnetic because they offer the perfect balance of connection and freedom. The seventh pillar is mastering your internal state. Magnetic people understand that their emotional state affects everyone around them. They take responsibility for their energy and make sure they're operating from a positive centered place before entering social situations. This doesn't mean being fake or suppressing negative emotions. It means being aware of your internal state and managing it responsibly. If you're feeling anxious, angry, or insecure, you handle those emotions privately rather than making others responsible for managing your emotional state. The eighth pillar is developing unshakable self-acceptance. Magnetic people have made peace with their imperfections. They don't try to hide their flaws or pretend to be perfect. Their comfort with their own humanity makes others feel safe to be human around them. When you accept yourself completely, others feel permission to be authentic around you. Your self-acceptance creates psychological safety that allows genuine connection to emerge. People are drawn to those around whom they can drop their masks and be real. Chapter 4. The Science of Presence and How to Command Attention Without Saying a Word. Presence is the most underestimated aspect of magnetism. Yet, it's often the most powerful. Before you speak a single word, your presence is already communicating volumes about who you are and how others should treat you. Understanding and mastering presence is like having a secret weapon in every social interaction. Presence starts with your relationship with space. Magnetic people move through the world as if they belong everywhere they go. They don't apologize for taking up space. They don't shrink themselves to make others comfortable. And they don't move tentatively as if they're afraid of being noticed. They inhabit their body fully and move with quiet confidence. This isn't about being aggressive or dominating. It's about being comfortable in your own skin and owning your right to exist in any space. When you move with this kind of grounded confidence, others automatically perceive you as someone worth paying attention to. Your posture is constantly communicating your internal state to everyone around you. Slouched shoulders signal defeat and insecurity. A rigid, puffed-up posture signals overcompensation and insecurity. But a naturally upright, relaxed posture signals confidence and comfort with yourself. The key is finding what psychologists call centered posture. This means standing or sitting with your spine naturally erect, your shoulders relaxed, and your weight evenly distributed. Your head should be level, not tilted up in arrogance or down in submission. This posture naturally commands respect without appearing aggressive. Your breathing also affects your presence in ways most people never realize. Shallow, quick breathing signals anxiety and makes others unconsciously uncomfortable around you. Deep, slow breathing signals calm confidence and actually has a calming effect on others. Magnetic people breathe from their diaphragm, not their chest. This deeper breathing naturally slows their speech, lowers their voice, and creates a sense of groundedness that others find attractive. Practice breathing deeply and slowly, especially in social situations, and notice how it affects both your confidence and others' reactions to you. Eye contact is perhaps the most powerful tool for creating presence. But most people use it incorrectly. They either avoid eye contact out of insecurity or use too much in an attempt to appear confident. Magnetic people have mastered the art of comfortable natural eye contact that creates connection without intimidation. The secret is to maintain eye contact when the other person is speaking as a sign of respect and attention. Break eye contact occasionally when you're speaking to avoid seeming aggressive. And always return to eye contact when making important points. Your eye contact should feel natural and comfortable, not forced or intense. But true presence goes deeper than physical posture and eye contact. It's about being completely present in the moment rather than distracted by thoughts about the past or future. When you're fully present, others can feel it. They sense that they have your complete attention, which is incredibly rare and valuable in our distracted world. Most people are only partially present in conversations. Part of their mind is thinking about what to say next. Part is judging what the other person is saying. Part is worried about how they appear. And part is distracted by external stimuli. This scattered attention is noticeable and makes others feel unimportant. Magnetic people have trained themselves to be completely absorbed in the present moment. They're not thinking about their response while the other person is talking. They're not judging or evaluating. They're simply receiving and processing what's being shared with them. This complete presence is magnetic because it makes others feel truly heard and valued. Developing presence also requires mastering your relationship with silence. Most people are terrified of conversational pauses and rush to fill every moment with words. But silence can be incredibly powerful when used correctly. Comfortable silence signals confidence and allows space for deeper thoughts and emotions to emerge. Magnetic people are comfortable with pauses in conversation. They don't feel compelled to fill every moment with chatter. They allow silence to exist naturally, using it to create emphasis. Allow processing time and invite deeper sharing from others. Your energy level also significantly affects your presence. Low energy makes you forgettable and draining to be around. Manic, excessive energy makes you overwhelming and exhausting. Magnetic people have learned to maintain what psychologists call calm energy. A steady, positive vitality that's both engaging and sustainable. This calm energy comes from being genuinely interested in life and others without being dependent on external stimulation for excitement. You're enthusiastic but not desperate. Engaged but not overwhelming. Positive but not manic. The final aspect of presence is what researchers call embodied confidence. This means your confidence isn't just mental but physical. You feel secure and grounded in your body, not disconnected or uncomfortable with your physical presence. When you're embodied, your movements are natural and flowing rather than stiff or nervous. You use gestures that support your words rather than distract from them. You move with purpose rather than restlessness. This embodied confidence is deeply attractive because it signals that you're comfortable with yourself at the most fundamental level. Chapter 5. The Art of Deep Connection and Making Anyone Feel Like the Most Important Person in the World. The ability to create deep connection quickly is what separates truly magnetic people from those who are merely charming or entertaining. While surface-level charisma might get attention, it's the capacity to make others feel genuinely understood and valued that creates lasting attraction and influence. Deep connection starts with understanding that every person you meet is fighting battles you know nothing about, carrying dreams that might never be spoken, and desperately wanting to feel significant and understood. When you approach others with this understanding, your entire demeanor changes. You become naturally more compassionate, patient, and interested. The first principle of deep connection is learning to listen not just to words, but to emotions, meanings, and what's not being said. Most people listen to respond rather than to understand. They're waiting for their turn to talk, formulating their reply, or judging what they're hearing. This shallow listening prevents real connection from forming. Magnetic people listen with what psychologists call empathic accuracy. They tune into the emotions behind the words, the needs beneath the statements, and the fears hiding behind the confidence. They listen for what the person is really trying to communicate, which is often different from what they're actually saying. This deeper listening requires you to quiet your internal dialogue and become completely absorbed in understanding the other person's experience. You're not listening to find openings to share your own stories or to evaluate whether you agree. You're listening to genuinely comprehend their perspective, feelings, and experiences. When someone feels truly heard at this level, something magical happens in their brain. Their nervous system calms down, their defenses lower, and they begin to feel safe with you. This neurological shift is the foundation of deep connection and explains why some people can create powerful bonds in just minutes. The second principle is learning to ask questions that invite deeper sharing. Most questions are surface level and predictable. What do you do for work? Where are you from? How's your day going? These questions might start conversations, but they don't create connection because they don't invite vulnerability or meaningful sharing. Magnetic people ask questions that gently invite others to share more of themselves. Instead of "what do you do?" they might ask "what's the most exciting project you're working on?" Instead of "how was your weekend?" they might ask "what's the best part of your week been so far?" These subtle shifts invite more personal and meaningful responses, but the real art is in follow-up questions. When someone shares something meaningful, most people either change the subject or immediately share their own related experience. Magnetic people dig deeper with thoughtful follow-ups that show they're genuinely interested in understanding more. If someone mentions they're working on an exciting project, a surface-level response might be, "That's cool." Before changing topics, a deeper response might be, "What makes that project so exciting for you?" Or, "What drew you to that kind of work?" These follow-ups show genuine interest and invite more meaningful sharing. The third principle is learning to reflect back what you hear in a way that makes the other person feel understood. This doesn't mean simply repeating their words, but identifying and acknowledging the emotions, values, and meanings beneath their statements. If someone tells you about a challenging situation at work, a surface-level response might be offering advice or sharing a similar experience. A deeper response would be reflecting back the emotion "that sounds really frustrating," or "I can hear how much that project means to you." This emotional reflection creates connection because it shows you understand not just the facts but the feelings. The fourth principle is sharing yourself authentically when appropriate. Deep connection isn't one-sided. While you want to focus primarily on understanding others, genuine connection requires mutual vulnerability. The key is sharing in ways that deepen the connection rather than shifting focus to yourself. When someone shares something meaningful, you might share a brief, relevant experience that shows you understand their situation. But the sharing should be concise and should lead back to them, not turn the conversation into being about you. The goal is to show that you understand through your own experience, not to compete for attention. The fifth principle is creating emotional safety through non-judgment and acceptance. People can sense when they're being evaluated, criticized, or judged. Even if you never say anything negative, this judgmental energy prevents deep connection because people don't feel safe to be vulnerable. Magnetic people create safety by approaching others with genuine curiosity rather than judgment. They're interested in understanding different perspectives rather than proving their own viewpoints. They make others feel accepted for who they are rather than who they think they should be. This doesn't mean agreeing with everything or having no opinions. It means separating understanding from agreement. You can completely understand someone's perspective while having a different view. When people feel understood rather than judged, they naturally want to spend more time with you. The final principle is recognizing and appreciating others' unique qualities and contributions. Everyone has something special about them, but most people go through life feeling ordinary and unnoticed. When you genuinely recognize and appreciate what makes someone unique, you give them a gift that most people rarely receive. This isn't about fake compliments or manipulative flattery. It's about genuinely noticing and acknowledging the qualities, perspectives, or experiences that make each person special. When you help someone feel special and appreciated, they associate those positive feelings with your presence, making you magnetic to them. Chapter 6. The Conversation Control System That Makes You Unforgettable. Most people think great conversations happen by accident, but magnetic individuals understand that memorable interactions follow specific patterns. They've mastered the art of conversation control, not through manipulation or domination, but through skillful guidance that makes others feel heard, valued, and energized. The foundation of conversation control is understanding that every interaction has an underlying emotional current. Surface-level conversations stay trapped in facts, opinions, and logical exchanges. Magnetic conversations tap into emotions, values, dreams, and deeper truths. The person who can guide conversations toward these deeper levels becomes unforgettable. The first technique is what psychologists call emotional labeling. Instead of staying on the surface of what someone says, you identify and acknowledge the emotion behind their words. If someone mentions they're starting a new job, instead of asking logical follow-ups about salary or responsibilities, you might say, "That sounds exciting and maybe a little nerve-wracking, too." This emotional acknowledgement immediately deepens the conversation. When you label emotions accurately, people feel seen and understood at a level most never experience. Their brain releases neurochemicals associated with bonding and trust. They begin to associate these positive feelings with your presence, making future interactions something they crave rather than just tolerate. The second technique is strategic vulnerability. Most people either share too much too quickly, making others uncomfortable, or they never open up, preventing real connection. Magnetic people have mastered the art of graduated disclosure, sharing personal insights that invite deeper sharing from others without overwhelming them. Strategic vulnerability means sharing something meaningful but not traumatic. Personal but not too intimate, and relatable but not attention-seeking. You might share a fear you overcame, a lesson you learned from failure, or a value that guides your decisions. This disclosure signals that deeper conversation is safe and welcome. The third technique is what researchers call assumption challenging. Most conversations stay predictable because people ask expected questions and accept surface-level answers. Magnetic people gently challenge assumptions and invite others to think more deeply about their own experiences and beliefs. If someone says they hate their job, instead of immediately offering sympathy or advice, you might ask, "What would need to change for you to actually look forward to work?" This type of question shifts the conversation from complaining to possibility, from problems to solutions, from victim mindset to empowered thinking. The fourth technique is masterful use of pauses and silence. Most people are uncomfortable with conversational gaps and rush to fill them with meaningless chatter. Magnetic people understand that strategic pauses create space for deeper thoughts and emotions to emerge. After someone shares something meaningful, instead of immediately responding, you pause for 2 to 3 seconds. This pause signals that you're truly considering what they've said rather than just waiting for your turn to talk. It also creates space for them to add more depth to their sharing, often revealing information they wouldn't have shared otherwise. The fifth technique is what psychologists call reframming statements. When someone shares a problem or challenge, instead of offering solutions or sympathy, you help them see their situation from a different perspective. This doesn't mean dismissing their concerns, but helping them discover new ways of thinking about their experiences. If someone complains about a difficult boss, instead of joining in the criticism, you might say, "It sounds like this situation is really testing your patience and communication skills. What do you think you're learning about yourself through this challenge?" This reframe shifts focus from victimhood to growth, from external blame to internal development. The sixth technique is active curiosity escalation. Instead of asking one question and moving on, magnetic people dig deeper with follow-up questions that show genuine interest in understanding the complete picture. Each question builds on the previous answer, creating a natural progression toward more meaningful sharing. This isn't interrogation, but genuine exploration. You're not asking questions to fill time or gather information, but because you're genuinely fascinated by this person's unique perspective and experience. This authentic curiosity is rare and magnetic because most people ask questions out of politeness rather than genuine interest. The seventh technique is emotional amplification. When someone shares something positive, you don't just acknowledge it and move on. You help them relive and expand on the positive emotion. If they mention an accomplishment, you might ask, "What was the exact moment you realized you had succeeded?" Or, "Who was the first person you wanted to share that news with?" This emotional amplification serves two purposes. It makes the person feel celebrated and valued, and it associates you with positive emotions. They begin to think of you as someone who makes them feel good about themselves and their accomplishments. The eighth technique is pattern recognition and insight offering. As you listen deeply to someone, you begin to notice patterns in their stories, values, and experiences. Magnetic people occasionally offer gentle insights about these patterns, helping others understand themselves better. You might notice that someone consistently chooses challenging projects and say, "I'm noticing something interesting about you. You seem drawn to situations that push you to grow. Is that something you do intentionally?" This type of insight makes people feel understood at a deeper level and positions you as someone who truly sees them. The final technique is conversation seeding. Throughout the interaction, you plant seeds for future conversations by asking about upcoming events, ongoing projects, or developing situations. This shows that you're interested in their life beyond this single interaction and creates natural reasons to reconnect. Instead of ending conversations with generic pleasantries, you might say, "I'd love to hear how that presentation goes next week." Or, "You'll have to tell me what you think of that book when you finish it." This forward-looking interest makes people feel valued and creates anticipation for future interactions. Chapter 7. The invisible influence system that makes people want to please you. True influence has nothing to do with force, manipulation, or aggressive persuasion. The most magnetic people understand that real influence comes from making others genuinely want to help you, support you, and be around you. This invisible influence system operates below conscious awareness, but creates powerful results. The foundation of invisible influence is understanding human psychology at its deepest level. People are motivated by their own interests, not yours. They make decisions based on emotions and then justify them with logic. They want to feel important, valued, and significant. When you align your requests with these fundamental drives, influence becomes effortless. The first principle is creating what psychologists call psychological ownership. When people feel like they've contributed to an idea or solution, they become emotionally invested in its success. Instead of presenting fully formed requests, magnetic people invite others to help shape and improve their ideas. Rather than saying, "I need you to help me with this project," you might say, "I'm working on this challenge and I value your perspective. What do you think would be the best approach?" This subtle shift makes the other person feel like a valued advisor rather than just someone being asked for a favor. The second principle is reciprocity activation. Humans have a deep psychological need to return favors and maintain social balance. But most people use reciprocity crudely by doing something and immediately asking for something in return. Magnetic people use reciprocity strategically by providing value first without any immediate requests. You might offer helpful information, make a valuable introduction, provide emotional support, or simply give genuine appreciation. You do this without keeping score or making the recipient feel indebted. Later, when you do need something, people are naturally inclined to help because they remember how you've added value to their lives. The third principle is social proof leveraging. People are more likely to comply with requests when they believe others like them have done the same thing. Instead of making isolated requests, magnetic people position their asks within the context of what similar others have done. Rather than saying, "Could you introduce me to Sarah?" you might say, "I've been hoping to connect with Sarah about her work in sustainability. I know you've introduced other people in your network to each other when there's a good mutual fit." This approach makes the request feel normal and socially acceptable rather than unusual or burdensome. The fourth principle is consistency commitment. People have a strong psychological drive to remain consistent with their previous commitments and stated values. Magnetic people gain influence by helping others see how their requests align with commitments or values the person has already expressed. If someone has mentioned they value innovation, you might frame a request by saying, "Given your passion for innovative approaches, I thought you'd be interested in this opportunity to try something completely new." This makes saying yes feel consistent with their identity rather than like a favor to you. The fifth principle is authority positioning. People naturally defer to those they perceive as experts or authorities in relevant areas. But magnetic people don't claim authority directly, which would seem arrogant. Instead, they demonstrate expertise through subtle storytelling and helpful insights. You might share a brief story about a similar situation you've handled. Offer a useful insight about the industry you work in or mention a lesson you learned from a relevant experience. This positions you as knowledgeable without appearing boastful, making others more likely to value your opinions and requests. The sixth principle is scarcity and uniqueness. People value things more when they perceive them as rare or limited. But crude scarcity tactics feel manipulative. Magnetic people create authentic scarcity by offering genuine value that is naturally limited. Instead of saying, "This opportunity won't last long," you might say, "I'm only able to take on 2 more projects this quarter because I want to give each one the attention it deserves." This creates scarcity based on your standards and capacity rather than artificial time pressure. The seventh principle is emotional state management. Your emotional state during requests significantly affects how others respond. If you're needy, desperate, or anxious, others unconsciously resist. If you're calm, confident, and genuinely interested in mutual benefit, others are naturally more receptive before making any request. Magnetic people ensure they're in the right emotional state. They're comfortable with the possibility of rejection, genuinely interested in creating value for the other person, and confident that their request is reasonable and beneficial. This inner state comes through in their tone, body language, and energy. The eighth principle is timing and context optimization. The same request can get completely different responses depending on when and how it's made. Magnetic people pay attention to others' moods, energy levels, and circumstances before making requests. They avoid asking for favors when someone is stressed, rushed, or dealing with challenges. Instead, they wait for moments when the person is in a positive state, has time to consider the request properly, and is most likely to see the mutual benefits. This timing awareness dramatically improves their success rate. The ninth principle is what researchers call reason why psychology. People are more likely to comply with requests when they understand the reasoning behind them, even when the reason seems obvious. Adding a brief explanation makes requests feel more reasonable and thoughtful. Instead of simply asking, "Could you review this document?" you might say, "Could you review this document? I value your perspective on these types of projects and your feedback would help me make sure I'm not missing anything important." The added context makes the request feel more meaningful and personal. The final principle is graceful acceptance of all responses. How you handle rejection affects your future influence with that person. Magnetic people respond to no with understanding and appreciation rather than disappointment or pressure. They make it easy for others to say no, which paradoxically makes them more likely to say yes to future requests. Chapter 8. Body Language Mastery and the Silent Signals That Control Every Interaction. Your body is constantly communicating, sending signals that others interpret unconsciously but powerfully. Most people are completely unaware of the messages they're broadcasting through their posture, gestures, facial expressions, and movement patterns. Magnetic individuals have mastered this silent language using their physical presence to create attraction, trust, and influence. Understanding body language starts with recognizing that humans evolved to read physical signals for survival. Your ancient brain is constantly scanning others for signs of threat, dominance, submission, health, confidence, and emotional state. These assessments happen in milliseconds and strongly influence how others respond to you. The foundation of magnetic body language is what psychologists call centered presence. This means your physical being reflects inner confidence and stability. You're neither rigid with tension nor collapsed with insecurity. Your body naturally expresses the calm confidence of someone who belongs wherever they are. Centered presence begins with your relationship to gravity and space. Instead of fighting gravity by pulling yourself up artificially or surrendering to it by collapsing, you work with it by finding natural balance and alignment. Your spine is naturally erect without being stiff. Your shoulders are relaxed without being slouched. And your head is level without being raised or lowered. Your breathing directly affects your physical presence and the energy others perceive from you. Shallow, rapid breathing signals anxiety and creates tension that others unconsciously pick up on. Deep, slow breathing from your diaphragm signals calm confidence and actually helps others feel more relaxed around you. Practice breathing deeply and slowly, especially in social situations. This deeper breathing naturally slows your speech, lowers your voice pitch, and creates a grounded quality that others find attractive. Your breath is the foundation of your physical presence, affecting everything from your posture to your energy. Your relationship with eye contact reveals more about your inner state than any other single factor. Confident people make comfortable, natural eye contact that creates connection without intimidation. Insecure people either avoid eye contact entirely or use too much in an attempt to appear confident. The key to magnetic eye contact is making it feel natural and comfortable rather than forced or intense. Maintain eye contact when others are speaking to show respect and attention. Break eye contact occasionally when you're speaking to avoid seeming aggressive. Always return to eye contact when making important points or asking questions. But true eye contact mastery goes deeper than just looking at someone's eyes. It's about being present and genuinely interested in the person you're talking with. When your eye contact comes from authentic interest rather than social obligation, it becomes magnetic because others can feel the difference. Your hand movements and gestures either support your words or distract from them. Nervous excessive gestures signal anxiety and insecurity. Rigid, suppressed movement signals over control and tension. Natural, purposeful gestures that support your communication signal confidence and authenticity. The most magnetic people use gestures that flow naturally from their words and emotions. They don't think about their hand movements because they're focused on communicating effectively. Their gestures emerge organically from their engagement with the conversation and the people they're talking with. Your posture tells a complete story about your confidence, energy, and attitude. Collapsed posture signals defeat and low energy. Artificially rigid posture signals overcompensation and insecurity. Natural upright posture signals confidence and vitality without appearing aggressive or dominating. The secret is finding what feels naturally strong and comfortable for your body. Stand or sit with your spine naturally erect, your shoulders relaxed, and your weight evenly balanced. Your chest should be naturally open without being puffed out. And your head should be level and balanced on your spine. Your facial expressions are constantly communicating your internal state and attitude toward others. Tense, controlled expressions signal anxiety and emotional suppression. Artificially animated expressions signal insecurity and people-pleasing. Natural, responsive expressions signal emotional authenticity and presence. The most magnetic people have naturally expressive faces that respond authentically to what they're experiencing in each moment. They're not controlling their expressions to create an impression, but allowing their genuine responses to show appropriately. This authenticity is attractive because it signals emotional health and presence. Your movement patterns reveal your relationship with your own body and your environment. Jerky, nervous movements signal anxiety and discomfort. Overly controlled, rigid movement signals tension and overcontrol. Fluid, purposeful movement signals confidence and comfort with yourself. Practice moving with intention and grace. Whether you're walking across a room, reaching for something, or adjusting your position, move deliberately rather than nervously. This purposeful movement signals that you're comfortable in your body and confident in your environment. Your spatial awareness affects how others experience your presence. People who take up too little space signal insecurity and low status. People who take up too much space signal insecurity disguised as dominance. Magnetic people take up appropriate space naturally, neither shrinking nor expanding beyond what feels authentic. This means sitting or standing in ways that feel naturally comfortable without apologizing for your presence or trying to dominate others. You belong in any space you're in. And your body language should reflect this quiet confidence without being aggressive or inconsiderate. Your response to others' body language is just as important as your own. Magnetic people are skilled at reading and responding appropriately to others' physical signals. If someone seems closed off, they create more space. If someone seems anxious, they project calm. If someone seems energetic, they match their enthusiasm appropriately. This responsive body language shows that you're attuned to others and care about their comfort. It demonstrates social intelligence and empathy, making others feel understood and respected. This sensitivity to others' physical and emotional states is a key component of magnetism. The integration of all these elements creates what researchers call embodied confidence. This means your confidence isn't just mental but is expressed through every aspect of your physical presence. Your body, breath, movement, and energy all align to communicate authentic strength and attractiveness. Chapter 9. The rapport building system that creates instant trust and connection. Rapport is the invisible bridge that connects human beings at an unconscious level. When rapport exists, communication flows effortlessly. Trust develops naturally and influence becomes possible. Without rapport, even the most logical arguments and compelling presentations fall flat. Understanding and mastering rapport building is essential for anyone who wants to become truly magnetic. Rapport operates below conscious awareness through what neuroscientists call mirror neuron activation. When you're in rapport with someone, your brains literally synchronize. Your breathing patterns align, your vocal tones become similar. Your body language mirrors each other and your energy levels match. This neurological synchronization creates feelings of familiarity, safety, and connection. The foundation of rapport building is what psychologists call pacing and leading. You begin by subtly matching the other person's communication style, energy level, and emotional state. Once rapport is established, you can gradually lead them toward different states or behaviors. This process must be done naturally and authentically, never as obvious mimicry. The first level of rapport building is matching communication preferences. Some people process information visually and use phrases like, "I see what you mean," or, "That looks good to me." Others are more auditory and say things like, "That sounds right," or "I hear what you're saying." Still, others are kinesthetic and use phrases like, "That feels right," or "I can grasp that concept." Listen for these language patterns and subtly incorporate similar sensory language into your responses. If someone says, "I can't see how this will work," you might respond with, "Let me paint a clearer picture of the benefits." This sensory matching helps the other person feel understood at an unconscious level. The second level is matching energy and pacing. If someone speaks quickly and has high energy, matching their pace initially will help you connect with them. If someone is more reflective and speaks slowly, respecting their tempo will create better rapport than trying to speed them up. This doesn't mean becoming a chameleon, but being sensitive to others' natural rhythms. The key is to match initially and then gradually lead toward a more optimal energy level for the interaction. You might start by matching someone's low energy and then slowly become more animated, bringing them with you to a more positive state. The third level is emotional state matching. If someone is concerned or worried about something, immediately jumping to optimism will break rapport. Instead, you acknowledge their concern and match their serious tone before gradually helping them see possibilities for improvement. This emotional sensitivity shows that you understand and respect their current experience. However, you never match negative emotions completely or stay there. Your goal is to acknowledge where they are emotionally and then gradually lead them to a better state. This requires emotional intelligence and the ability to manage your own state while being responsive to others. The fourth level is value and priority alignment. Listen for what's important to the other person and demonstrate that you understand and respect those priorities. If someone values efficiency, emphasize how your ideas will save time. If someone values relationship building, Focus on how your suggestions will improve connections with others. This doesn't mean changing your core values, but finding genuine points of connection between what matters to them and what you're discussing. People feel rapport with those who understand and appreciate what's important to them. The fifth level is belief and worldview acknowledgement. While you don't need to agree with everything someone believes, acknowledging their perspective creates rapport. You might say, "I can understand why you see it that way." Or, "That perspective makes sense given your experience." This validation of their viewpoint creates safety for further discussion even when you disagree. You can create rapport by showing respect for their thinking process and acknowledging valid points within their position. This respectful disagreement actually builds more rapport than false agreement because it shows you're genuinely listening and considering their ideas. The sixth level is shared experience creation. Humans bond through common experiences, interests, or backgrounds. Listen for opportunities to discover genuine connections. Perhaps you've both traveled to the same place, faced similar challenges, or share common interests. These shared experiences create natural rapport, but avoid forcing connections that don't genuinely exist. People can sense when you're trying too hard to find commonalities. Focus on authentic shared experiences and interests rather than stretching to create artificial connections. The seventh level is future vision alignment. When you can help someone see how your ideas or suggestions align with their future goals and aspirations, powerful rapport develops. Instead of focusing only on immediate benefits, connect your proposals to their long-term vision and dreams. This requires understanding not just what they want now, but where they're trying to go in life or business. When you show genuine interest in their future success and demonstrate how you can help them achieve it, rapport moves beyond surface connection to deeper alliance. The eighth level is trust building through consistency. Rapport isn't just about initial connection, but maintaining trust over time. This means being reliable, honest, and consistent in your communications and actions. Every interaction either builds or undermines the rapport you've established. Follow through on commitments, communicate clearly and honestly, and be consistent in how you show up in the relationship. Trust develops slowly, but can be destroyed quickly. So protecting and nurturing the rapport you've built is essential for long-term influence and connection. The final level is what psychologists call unconscious competence in rapport building. This means rapport creation becomes so natural that you do it automatically without thinking about techniques or strategies. Your genuine interest in others and desire to create positive interactions naturally leads to rapport building behaviors. At this level, rapport building isn't something you do but something you are. Your authentic desire to understand, connect with, and add value to others' lives naturally creates the conditions for deep rapport and lasting relationships. Chapter 10. The difficult people strategy that turns enemies into allies. Every magnetic person eventually encounters difficult, hostile or challenging individuals. The difference between those who remain magnetic and those who lose their power is how they handle these challenging interactions. Instead of becoming defensive, argumentative, or withdrawn, truly magnetic people have developed strategies that often transform their most difficult encounters into their most powerful relationships. The foundation of handling difficult people is understanding that their behavior usually isn't about you, even when it feels personal. Difficult behavior typically stems from fear, insecurity, past hurt, unmet needs, or feeling misunderstood. When you can see beyond the surface behavior to the underlying human needs, you can respond in ways that often completely transform the interaction. The first strategy is what psychologists call emotional aikido. Instead of meeting aggression with counter-aggression or defensiveness, you redirect the energy by acknowledging the emotion behind the difficult behavior. If someone is angry, you don't defend against their anger, but acknowledge their frustration and try to understand its source. You might say something like, "I can see this situation is really frustrating for you. Help me understand what's most concerning about it." This approach often disarms difficult people because they expect resistance and argument when you respond with understanding instead of defense. It creates space for the real issue to emerge. The second strategy is refusing to take difficult behavior personally. This requires emotional maturity and self-awareness, but it's essential for maintaining your magnetism in challenging situations. When someone is rude, critical, or hostile, your natural reaction might be to defend yourself or counterattack. Magnetic people resist this impulse. Instead, they maintain curiosity about what's driving the difficult behavior. They ask themselves, what need isn't being met for this person, or what fear might be causing this reaction? This curiosity protects your emotional state and often leads to insights that help resolve the situation. The third strategy is finding the grain of truth in criticism or complaints. Even when someone is being unfair or overly aggressive, there's often a kernel of legitimate concern within their difficult behavior. Magnetic people look for this grain of truth and acknowledge it, which often diffuses the person's defensiveness. If someone angrily complains that you're always late, instead of defending your punctuality record, you might say, "You're right that being on time shows respect for others' schedules. I can understand why that would be frustrating." This acknowledgement often leads to more productive conversation about the real issues. The fourth strategy is setting clear boundaries with compassion. Being magnetic doesn't mean accepting abuse or allowing others to treat you poorly. It means setting boundaries in ways that maintain respect for both yourself and the other person. You can be firm about what behavior you will and won't accept while still treating the person with dignity. You might say, "I want to understand your concerns, but I need you to speak to me respectfully. Can we restart this conversation with that agreement?" This approach sets a clear boundary while keeping the focus on solving problems rather than winning arguments. The fifth strategy is using what negotiators call the power of acknowledgement. Difficult people often become more reasonable when they feel heard and understood. Before addressing any problems or offering solutions, make sure the person knows you've truly listened to their perspective. Repeat back their concerns in your own words. Acknowledge the emotions they're experiencing and validate any legitimate points they've made. Only after they feel fully heard should you begin addressing solutions or sharing your own perspective. The sixth strategy is reframing conflicts as problem-solving opportunities. Instead of seeing difficult interactions as battles to be won, magnetic people frame them as puzzles to be solved together. This shift from adversarial to collaborative thinking often transforms the entire dynamic of the interaction. You might say, "It seems like we both want this project to succeed, but we have different ideas about the best approach. How can we find a solution that addresses both of our concerns?" This collaborative framing invites cooperation instead of competition. The seventh strategy is what psychologists call strategic vulnerability. Sometimes sharing appropriate personal information can humanize you to difficult people and create unexpected connection. This doesn't mean oversharing or making yourself vulnerable to attack, but finding ways to show your humanity. You might share a brief story about a time you made a similar mistake. Acknowledge a limitation you have or express genuine appreciation for something the person does well. This vulnerability often disarms hostility because it's unexpected and shows you're not trying to be perfect or superior. The eighth strategy is patience and persistence. Transforming difficult relationships rarely happens in a single interaction. It requires consistently responding with maturity, understanding, and respect, even when the other person hasn't changed their behavior yet. This patience often eventually breaks through the other person's defenses. Many difficult people are testing whether you're genuine in your respectful approach or just putting on an act when you consistently respond with understanding and professionalism. Even difficult people often begin to trust and respect you. The ninth strategy is knowing when to disengage. While magnetic people are skilled at handling difficult situations, they also recognize when continued interaction isn't productive or healthy. Sometimes the most magnetic thing you can do is politely but firmly remove yourself from a toxic situation. This disengagement should be done with grace and respect, leaving the door open for future positive interaction if the person chooses to change their approach. You're not burning bridges, but you're also not subjecting yourself to ongoing abuse or negativity. The final strategy is maintaining your own emotional state regardless of others' behavior. This is perhaps the most important skill because your emotional state affects every aspect of how you handle difficult people. If you become angry, defensive, or upset, you lose your ability to respond strategically and often make situations worse. Before and during challenging interactions, focus on maintaining your center. Breathe deeply. Remember your values and goals and choose responses that align with who you want to be rather than reacting to how others are behaving. This emotional mastery is what allows you to remain magnetic even in difficult situations. Chapter 11. Advanced Social Intelligence and Reading People Like an Open Book. Most people stumble through social situations completely blind to the complex web of signals, motivations, and dynamics happening around them. They miss crucial information that would help them navigate relationships more effectively, influence outcomes more successfully, and avoid social landmines that damage their reputation and relationships. Magnetic people operate with a completely different level of social awareness. They've developed what psychologists call advanced social intelligence. The ability to read in spoken communication, understand hidden motivations, predict social dynamics, and position themselves strategically within any social environment. This isn't about manipulation, it's about awareness. The foundation of social intelligence is understanding that every human interaction operates on multiple levels simultaneously. There's the surface level of what people actually say, the emotional level of how they feel, the social level of group dynamics and hierarchy, and the personal level of individual needs and motivations. Most people only operate on the surface level, missing 75% of what's actually happening. Advanced social intelligence begins with reading micro-expressions and body language cues that reveal true emotions despite what someone is saying verbally. Humans leak their real feelings through tiny facial movements, changes in posture, shifts in vocal tone, and unconscious gestures. Learning to read these signals gives you information others don't have access to. When someone says they're fine, but their shoulders are tense, their jaw is tight, and they're avoiding eye contact, you know they're actually stressed or upset. When someone claims to agree with an idea, but their arms are crossed, they're leaning back, and their voice lacks enthusiasm. You understand. They have reservations they're not expressing. The key is developing what researchers call baseline awareness. Everyone has different normal patterns of behavior, voice, and body language. To read someone accurately, you need to notice their baseline and then observe deviations from it. A naturally animated person becoming still might indicate discomfort, while a usually calm person becoming fidgety could signal excitement or anxiety. Advanced social intelligence also involves understanding social hierarchies and power dynamics that exist in every group setting. Whether it's a business meeting, family gathering, or social event, there are always informal leadership structures, alliances, tensions, and influence patterns that affect how communication flows and decisions get made. Watch for who others look to when decisions need to be made. Who speaks first in group discussions, whose opinions carry more weight, who defers to whom, and who seems to have informal influence despite their official position. Understanding these dynamics helps you navigate group situations more effectively and avoid inadvertently challenging the wrong people or aligning with the wrong factions. The most socially intelligent people are also skilled at reading what psychologists call social proof signals. They notice who has high status in a group, who is well respected, who is marginalized, and who is seeking to improve their position. This awareness helps them understand how their association with different people affects their own social standing. They pay attention to how others are treated, what behaviors are rewarded or punished in the group, what topics are safe or dangerous to discuss, and what unspoken rules govern the social environment. This awareness prevents social mistakes and helps them operate more effectively within existing social structures. Another crucial aspect of social intelligence is understanding individual motivation patterns. Every person is driven by core needs and fears that influence their behavior. Some people are primarily motivated by recognition and status. Others by security and belonging. Others by autonomy and control. And still others by growth and learning. Learning to identify what motivates each individual allows you to communicate with them in ways that resonate deeply. If someone is driven by recognition, you emphasize how your ideas will help them get noticed. If someone values security, you focus on how your suggestions reduce risk. If someone craves autonomy, you present options and let them choose. Advanced social intelligence also involves reading group energy and emotional climates. Every social environment has an underlying emotional tone that affects how people interact. Sometimes the energy is positive and collaborative. Other times it's tense and competitive. Sometimes people are open and receptive. Other times they're defensive and guarded. The most socially intelligent people quickly assess the emotional climate and adjust their approach accordingly. In a tense environment, they might work to lighten the mood or address underlying concerns. In a positive environment, they capitalize on the good energy to advance important conversations or build stronger relationships. They also understand timing and social rhythms. They know when to speak up and when to listen, when to push for decisions and when to let things develop naturally, when to be serious and when to use humor, when to challenge ideas and when to build consensus. This timing awareness dramatically improves their effectiveness in social situations. One of the most sophisticated aspects of social intelligence is understanding what researchers call social scripts. The unwritten rules and expectations that govern different types of interactions. Business meetings have different scripts than family dinners, which have different scripts than cocktail parties or religious gatherings. Socially intelligent people quickly identify which script is operating in any situation and adjust their behavior accordingly. They understand that violating social scripts, even unintentionally, can create discomfort and resistance, while following them appropriately creates ease and acceptance. They also recognize when it's strategic to intentionally break social scripts to create specific effects. A well-timed joke in a serious meeting, a vulnerable admission in a formal setting, or a direct question when everyone is being polite can sometimes create breakthrough moments that change the entire dynamic of an interaction. The most advanced social intelligence skill is what psychologists call perspective taking accuracy. The ability to understand how situations look and feel from other people's viewpoints. This goes beyond empathy to actual cognitive and emotional accuracy about others' experiences. Most people assume others think and feel similarly to themselves. Socially intelligent people recognize that everyone has different backgrounds, values, fears, and perspectives that shape how they interpret the same situation. They work to understand these different viewpoints rather than projecting their own perspective onto others. This perspective-taking accuracy allows them to predict how others will respond to different approaches, anticipate potential objections or concerns, and tailor their communication to be most effective with each individual. It's like having a social GPS that helps them navigate relationships with precision rather than guesswork. The final aspect of advanced social intelligence is developing what researchers call social calibration. The ability to continuously adjust your approach based on real-time feedback from others. This means paying attention to how others are responding to you and making micro-adjustments to improve the interaction. If you notice someone becoming defensive, you might soften your tone or ask questions to understand their concerns. If someone seems bored, you might change topics or invite them to share their thoughts. If someone appears confused, you might explain things differently or check for understanding. This constant calibration ensures that your social interactions are effective rather than just habitual. You're not just going through social motions, but actively working to create the outcomes you want while ensuring others feel comfortable and valued in the process. Chapter 12. The magnetic lifestyle design that makes attraction effortless. Becoming magnetic isn't just about what you do in social situations. It's about who you become as a person. The most attractive individuals have designed their entire lives around principles and practices that naturally create magnetism. Their attractiveness isn't performance or technique. It's the authentic expression of how they live and think every day. The foundation of magnetic lifestyle design is understanding that attraction flows from abundance, not neediness. When your life is full of purpose, growth, relationships, and experiences that you genuinely value, you naturally become someone others want to be around. You're not seeking validation or trying to fill voids through social interaction. You're sharing the overflow of a rich, meaningful life. This abundance mindset affects every aspect of how you show up in relationships. Instead of wondering what others can do for you, you're naturally thinking about what you can offer them. Instead of needing approval, you're comfortable being yourself. Instead of fearing rejection, you're secure in your own worth. This internal abundance is magnetic because it's rare and refreshing. The first pillar of magnetic lifestyle design is developing genuine expertise and passion in areas that matter to you. Magnetic people are typically very good at something and genuinely passionate about their interests. This isn't about becoming impressive for others, but about developing yourself in ways that create authentic confidence and give you interesting things to contribute to conversations. Whether it's professional skills, hobbies, creative pursuits, or intellectual interests, having areas where you're knowledgeable and passionate makes you naturally more interesting to be around. People are drawn to those who have depth and expertise because they can learn something valuable from the interaction. But the key is authentic passion, not calculated impression management. You develop expertise because you're genuinely interested and want to grow, not because you think it will make you more attractive. This authentic motivation comes through in how you share your interests and makes others want to learn from you. The second pillar is maintaining physical and mental health as a foundation for sustainable magnetism. You cannot be consistently magnetic if you're constantly tired, stressed, unhealthy, or mentally overwhelmed. Your physical and emotional state affects your energy, mood, presence, and ability to focus on others. This means taking responsibility for your sleep, nutrition, exercise, stress management, and mental health. Not because you want to look good for others, but because you want to feel good and operate at your highest level. When you feel genuinely good physically and mentally, that positive energy naturally attracts others. Regular exercise, adequate sleep, healthy nutrition, stress management practices, and mental health maintenance aren't just personal benefits, they're social advantages. When you feel strong, energetic, and mentally clear, you naturally show up better in all your relationships and interactions. The third pillar is cultivating a rich social life. That doesn't depend on any single person or group for fulfillment. Magnetic people have diverse social connections and aren't desperate for attention from any particular individual because their social needs are being met through multiple relationships and activities. This social abundance eliminates neediness and desperation that repel others. When you have a full, satisfying social life, you can be genuinely interested in new people without being clingy or demanding. You can invest in relationships without being attached to specific outcomes because your overall social needs are already being met. Building social abundance requires intentionally nurturing multiple types of relationships, participating in group activities and communities that align with your interests, maintaining friendships across different areas of your life, and regularly meeting new people through various activities and events. The fourth pillar is developing what psychologists call emotional independence. The ability to feel good about yourself and your life regardless of others' opinions or treatment of you. This doesn't mean being isolated or uncaring about relationships. But it means your core emotional stability doesn't depend on external validation. Emotionally independent people are magnetic because they bring positive energy to interactions without needing others to manage their emotional state. They can handle disagreement, rejection or criticism without falling apart because their self-worth is internally generated rather than externally dependent. This emotional independence comes from developing a strong sense of personal values and identity. Building confidence through achievement and growth. Maintaining supportive relationships that provide emotional security and developing practices that help you maintain emotional equilibrium regardless of external circumstances. The fifth pillar is creating a lifestyle that regularly exposes you to new experiences, people, and opportunities for growth. Magnetic people are interesting because they're constantly learning, exploring, and evolving. They have stories to tell, insights to share, and perspectives that have been shaped by diverse experiences. This doesn't necessarily mean expensive travel or extreme adventures, though those can certainly contribute. It means saying yes to new opportunities, being curious about different types of people and experiences, challenging yourself to learn new skills or explore new interests, and generally approaching life with openness and enthusiasm for growth. The variety and richness of your experiences directly affects how interesting you are to others. People are drawn to those who can share fascinating stories, offer unique perspectives, and introduce them to new ideas or ways of thinking. The sixth pillar is developing what researchers call contribution consciousness, a genuine desire to add value to others' lives and make a positive difference in the world. Magnetic people are often involved in work, hobbies, or volunteer activities that contribute to something larger than themselves. This sense of purpose and contribution creates natural confidence and makes you genuinely interesting to others. When you're passionate about making a difference, people want to hear about it and often want to support your efforts. Your sense of purpose becomes attractive because it demonstrates that you're thinking beyond just your own immediate gratification. Whether through professional work, volunteer activities, creative projects, or personal relationships, finding ways to regularly contribute to others' well-being and success makes you naturally magnetic because it demonstrates character and creates positive energy around you. The seventh pillar is maintaining what psychologists call growth mindset, the belief that you can continue developing your abilities, improving your skills, and evolving as a person throughout your life. This growth orientation keeps you curious, humble, and open to feedback, all of which are attractive qualities. People with growth mindsets are magnetic because they're constantly becoming more interesting versions of themselves. They ask thoughtful questions, listen to learn rather than to judge, and are willing to admit when they don't know something. This humility and curiosity creates psychological safety that makes others comfortable being authentic around them. The eighth pillar is creating and maintaining personal standards for how you want to live and how you want to treat others. Magnetic people have clear values that guide their decisions and behavior. They don't just drift through life reacting to circumstances, but actively choose how they want to show up in the world. These personal standards create natural confidence and self-respect that others find attractive. When you know what you stand for and consistently live according to your values, you develop an inner strength and authenticity that draws others to you. Your standards might include how you treat people regardless of their status, how you handle conflicts and disagreements, what quality of work you produce, how you take care of your commitments, and what kinds of behavior you accept from others in your relationships. The final pillar is developing what researchers call social generosity, a genuine inclination to help others succeed, feel good about themselves, and achieve their goals. This isn't about being used or giving without boundaries, but about naturally looking for ways to add value to others' lives. Socially generous people are magnetic because interactions with them leave others feeling better about themselves and their possibilities. They celebrate others' successes, offer genuine encouragement during challenges, share resources and connections that might be helpful, and generally create positive energy in their social environments. This social generosity must be authentic rather than calculated. When you genuinely want others to succeed and feel good, that positive intention comes through in all your interactions and makes you someone others naturally want to spend time with and support. Chapter 13. The Network Effect Strategy that Creates Exponential Social Power. The most magnetic people understand that relationships aren't just individual connections, but part of larger networks that amplify their influence and opportunities exponentially. They think strategically about how to build and nurture networks that create value for everyone involved while positioning themselves as valuable connectors and resources within those networks. Understanding network effects begins with recognizing that your social influence isn't just determined by how many people you know, but by how well connected those people are and how much value flows through your relationships. One connection to a highly influential, well-connected person can be more valuable than dozens of connections to isolated individuals. But network thinking goes beyond just connecting with influential people. The most powerful networks are built on mutual value creation, where everyone benefits from the connections and everyone is motivated to maintain and strengthen the relationships. This requires thinking about how to create value for others, not just what you can get from them. The foundation of strategic networking is understanding different types of social capital and how they compound over time. Bonding capital comes from strong, close relationships with people who know and trust you deeply. Bridging capital comes from connections across different groups, industries, or social circles. Linking capital comes from relationships with people in positions of formal authority or influence. Magnetic people cultivate all three types of capital strategically. They maintain deep, strong relationships with core allies and supporters. They build bridges across different worlds and communities. And they develop appropriate relationships with people in positions of influence and authority. This diversified approach creates a robust network that serves multiple purposes. The first principle of magnetic networking is leading with value rather than need. Instead of approaching relationships thinking about what you can get, you focus on what you can give. This might be sharing useful information, making valuable introductions, offering skills or expertise, providing encouragement and support, or simply being a positive presence in others' lives. When you consistently add value to your network, people begin to think of you as a resource and want to maintain the relationship. They also become naturally inclined to help you when you do have needs because they've experienced your generosity and want to reciprocate. But leading with value must be authentic and sustainable. You can't give more than you have indefinitely. And you shouldn't give in ways that create resentment or drain your own resources. The key is finding ways to add value that feel natural and energizing for you rather than forced or burdensome. The second principle is becoming what networking experts call a super connector. Someone who actively helps others in your network connect with each other when it makes sense. This role is incredibly powerful because it makes you valuable to everyone in your network and positions you at the center of value creation. When you introduce two people who can help each other, both of them appreciate you for the connection. Over time, you become known as someone who facilitates valuable relationships, which makes people want to stay connected with you and share opportunities with you. Being a super connector requires paying attention to what different people in your network need and looking for opportunities to match needs with resources. It also requires being thoughtful about introductions, making sure both parties would genuinely benefit from the connection rather than just introducing people randomly. The third principle is maintaining consistent, appropriate contact with your network over time. Relationships decay without regular communication. But the key is finding ways to stay in touch that feel natural and valuable rather than forced or self-serving. This might include sharing articles or resources that would interest specific people, congratulating people on achievements or milestones, checking in during challenging times, inviting people to relevant events or opportunities, or simply reaching out periodically to see how they're doing and what they're working on. The most effective network maintenance feels like genuine relationship building rather than calculated contact management. You're staying in touch because you care about these people and want to maintain the relationship, not because you're following a systematic networking strategy. The fourth principle is strategic positioning within existing networks and communities. Instead of just collecting individual relationships, magnetic people think about how to become valuable members of existing groups and communities where natural networking happens organically. This might include professional associations, industry groups, alumni networks, hobby communities, volunteer organizations, or social clubs. By becoming an active contributing member of these groups, you naturally develop relationships with other members and gain access to their extended networks. The key is choosing groups strategically based on your interests and goals, but then participating authentically once you join. People can sense when someone is only participating to network versus genuinely caring about the group's purpose and activities. The fifth principle is developing what researchers call weak tie strength. The ability to maintain relationships with people you don't see frequently, but who might become important connections in the future. Research shows that many opportunities come through weak ties rather than strong relationships. This means keeping track of people you meet at conferences, former colleagues, friends of friends, and others who aren't part of your daily life, but who represent potential future opportunities for collaboration or mutual benefit. Social media and professional networking platforms make this easier than ever. The goal isn't to maintain close relationships with everyone, but to keep loose connections active enough that reaching out in the future wouldn't feel awkward or inappropriate. This might involve occasional social media engagement, brief email updates, or attendance at events where you might naturally reconnect. The sixth principle is understanding and navigating the social hierarchies and influence patterns within your networks. Every network has informal leadership structures, key influences, and gatekeepers who control access to opportunities and resources. Magnetic people invest time in understanding these dynamics and building appropriate relationships with key influencers and gatekeepers. They don't ignore or alienate people with less formal influence, but they do recognize that some relationships have more strategic value than others. This requires social intelligence and political awareness to understand who really has influence, how decisions get made, what the unwritten rules are, and how to position yourself appropriately within existing power structures. The seventh principle is leveraging network effects for others' benefit, not just your own. When you use your network to help others achieve their goals, you strengthen your relationships with everyone involved and enhance your reputation as someone worth knowing. This might involve making introductions that help someone get a job, connecting someone with expertise they need for a project, inviting someone to an event where they'll meet valuable contacts, or simply sharing information about opportunities that would interest people in your network. The more you use your network to benefit others, the more people want to be part of your network and the more willing they are to help you when you need assistance. The eighth principle is maintaining what networking experts call network hygiene. Regularly evaluating your relationships and investing your limited time and energy in connections that are mutually beneficial and energizing rather than draining or one-sided. This doesn't mean being cold or calculating about relationships, but it does mean being honest about which relationships add value to your life and which ones drain your energy or create negative dynamics. Life is too short to maintain relationships that consistently make you feel worse rather than better. Sometimes this means having difficult conversations about changing relationship dynamics. Sometimes it means gradually reducing contact with people who are consistently negative or demanding, and sometimes it means being more selective about new relationships you choose to develop. The final principle is understanding that network building is a long-term strategy that compounds over time. The relationships you build today may not provide immediate benefits, but they can become incredibly valuable years later as people advance in their careers, start businesses, or gain influence in their fields. This long-term perspective helps you invest in relationships with people who are early in their careers but show potential. Maintain connections with people even when they can't help you immediately. And think about relationship building as an investment in your future opportunities rather than just a way to solve immediate problems. The most successful networking happens when you genuinely care about the people in your network and invest in relationships because you value them as human beings, not just as strategic assets. This authentic care comes through in all your interactions and makes others want to maintain and strengthen their connection with you over time. Chapter 14. Maintaining your magnetic edge and avoiding the common traps that destroy attraction. Building magnetism is challenging, but maintaining it over time is even more difficult. Many people develop attractive qualities and build strong relationships only to gradually lose their magnetic edge through complacency, bad habits, or falling into psychological traps that slowly erode their attractiveness to others. Understanding and avoiding these magnetism destroyers is crucial for anyone who wants to remain attractive and influential throughout their life. The most successful magnetic people have learned to recognize early warning signs and correct course before their attractiveness begins to decline. The first magnetism destroyer is what psychologists call success complacency. When people achieve a certain level of social or professional success, they often stop doing the things that made them successful in the first place. They become less interested in others, less willing to learn and grow, and more focused on maintaining their status than continuing to develop their character and skills. This complacency is deadly to magnetism because it shifts you from a growth mindset to a fixed mindset, from abundance thinking to scarcity thinking, and from other focus to self-focus. People can sense when someone has become complacent and entitled, and it makes them less attractive regardless of their past achievements. Avoiding success complacency requires maintaining humility and curiosity. Even as you achieve your goals, continue learning new things. Stay genuinely interested in others' perspectives and experiences. And remember that your past successes don't entitle you to future relationships or opportunities. The second destroyer is emotional neediness creep. Even people who start with healthy emotional independence can gradually become more needy and dependent on others for validation, especially if they go through difficult periods or face unexpected challenges. This neediness slowly erodes their attractiveness as others begin to feel responsible for managing their emotional state. Neediness can show up as requiring constant reassurance, becoming overly sensitive to others' moods and reactions, making others responsible for your happiness, seeking validation through achievements or recognition, or becoming possessive or controlling in relationships. Preventing neediness creep requires maintaining your emotional independence practices even during difficult times. This means continuing to take responsibility for your own emotional state, maintaining supportive relationships that provide emotional security, and developing resilience practices that help you handle challenges without becoming dependent on others for emotional support. The third destroyer is what researchers call social script rigidity. Some people develop social skills and then use them mechanically rather than adapting to different situations and people. They become predictable and formulaic in their interactions, which reduces their authenticity and makes them less interesting to be around. This happens when people focus on techniques rather than genuine connection. When they stop paying attention to individual differences and unique situations, or when they become more concerned with appearing socially skilled than with actually connecting with others. Avoiding social script rigidity requires maintaining flexibility and authenticity in your social interactions. Continue paying attention to individual differences, adapting your approach to different people and situations, and focusing on genuine connection rather than just demonstrating social competence. The fourth destroyer is negative energy accumulation. Everyone faces challenges, disappointments, and setbacks. But some people allow these negative experiences to accumulate and affect their overall energy and attitude. They become gradually more cynical, critical, or pessimistic, which makes them draining rather than energizing to be around. This negative energy can manifest as chronic complaining, gossiping about others, focusing on problems rather than solutions, becoming critical of others' decisions and choices, or developing a general pessimistic worldview that colors all your interactions. Preventing negative energy accumulation requires actively managing your emotional state and developing practices that help you process negative experiences without allowing them to poison your overall outlook. This might include therapy, meditation, exercise, journaling, or other practices that help you maintain perspective and emotional balance. The fifth destroyer is what psychologists call relationship taking. Some people become so comfortable in their relationships that they stop investing effort in maintaining them. They take others' affection and loyalty for granted and stop doing the things that originally built the connection. This might show up as becoming less attentive to others' needs and interests, stopping the thoughtful gestures that originally built the relationship, taking others' time and attention for granted, or becoming less appreciative of others' contributions to your life. Preventing relationship taking requires continuing to invest in your relationships even after they're established. This means regularly expressing appreciation, continuing to show interest in others' lives and goals, and never taking others' loyalty and affection for granted. The sixth destroyer is what researchers call influence corruption. Some people become so skilled at influencing others that they begin using their abilities manipulatively rather than ethically. They start prioritizing getting what they want over what's best for others, which gradually erodes trust and respect. This corruption often happens gradually as people rationalize small ethical compromises that eventually lead to larger violations of trust. They might start using their influence to benefit themselves at others' expense, manipulating others' emotions to get what they want or violating the trust that others have placed in them. Preventing influence corruption requires maintaining clear ethical boundaries and regularly examining your motivations for influencing others. Ask yourself whether your influence is serving others' best interests as well as your own. And be willing to sacrifice short-term gains to maintain long-term trust and respect. The seventh destroyer is social media distraction and comparison. The constant exposure to others' highlight reels can create insecurity and self-doubt that undermines your natural confidence and authenticity. It can also create addictive behaviors that interfere with your ability to be present and engaged in real-life interactions. Social media comparison can lead to artificial behavior as you try to compete with others' online presentations, distraction from real relationships as you focus on digital validation, and insecurity about your own life and achievements compared to others' curated presentations. Managing social media's impact on your magnetism requires being intentional about your usage, focusing on genuine connection rather than digital validation, and maintaining perspective about the difference between online presentations and real life. The eighth destroyer is what psychologists call comfort zone calcification. Some people become so comfortable in their established social circles and routines that they stop challenging themselves to grow and meet new people. This stagnation gradually makes them less interesting and dynamic. This calcification shows up as avoiding new social situations or challenges, becoming predictable in your interests and activities, losing curiosity about different types of people and experiences, or becoming overly attached to familiar routines and relationships. Preventing comfort zone calcification requires continuously challenging yourself to grow, learn, and meet new people. This doesn't mean constantly changing everything about your life, but it does mean remaining open to new experiences and relationships that can help you continue evolving. The final destroyer is what researchers call authenticity abandonment. Some people become so focused on maintaining their magnetic image that they lose touch with their authentic selves. They become performative rather than genuine, which ultimately undermines their attractiveness as people sense the lack of authenticity. This abandonment happens when you prioritize others' approval over your own values and preferences. When you become more concerned with appearing attractive than with being true to yourself, or when you lose sight of what actually matters to you in pursuit of social success. Maintaining authenticity while developing magnetism requires staying connected to your core values and identity throughout your social development. Your goal should be to become the most attractive version of yourself, not to become someone else entirely. The most sustainable magnetism comes from authentic self-expression rather than calculated performance. Chapter 15. The complete transformation and your new identity as a people magnet. Everything you've learned throughout this journey comes together in one fundamental shift. Transforming your identity from someone who hopes to be liked to someone who naturally attracts others through authentic value creation. This isn't about changing who you are at your core, but about expressing your authentic self in ways that naturally draw others to you. True magnetism isn't a performance you put on or a set of techniques you use. It's who you become when you integrate all these principles into your natural way of being. The most magnetic people don't think about being magnetic. They simply are magnetic because magnetism has become their natural expression of how they see themselves and interact with the world. This identity transformation begins with understanding that your old social identity was likely built around scarcity, fear, and need. You approached relationships wondering if others would like you, worried about saying the wrong thing, and focused on getting approval, validation, or acceptance from others. This neediness created the exact opposite effect you were hoping for. Your new magnetic identity is built around abundance, confidence, and contribution. You approach relationships knowing you have value to offer, confident in your ability to handle any social situation and focused on what you can give to others rather than what you can get from them. This fundamental shift in mindset changes everything about how you show up in social situations. The first aspect of your new identity is what psychologists call social leadership. This doesn't mean being the loudest person in the room or trying to control every interaction. It means taking responsibility for the energy and outcomes of your social interactions. You become someone who makes social situations better through your presence and participation. Social leaders enter interactions with positive energy and genuine interest in others. They help others feel comfortable and valued. They guide conversations toward meaningful topics. They handle difficult moments with grace and maturity. They leave others feeling better about themselves and excited about future interactions. This leadership isn't about dominance or control, but about service. You lead by serving others' needs for connection, understanding, and significance. When you consistently make others' social experiences better, you naturally become someone they want to be around more often. The second aspect is what researchers call emotional sovereignty. This means you take complete responsibility for your emotional state and never make others responsible for managing your feelings or reactions. You feel good about yourself regardless of how others treat you, and you maintain your positive energy even in challenging social situations. Emotional sovereignty makes you incredibly attractive because it signals strength, maturity, and emotional intelligence. Others feel safe around you because they know you won't have emotional outbursts, won't become needy or demanding, and won't blame them for your feelings or reactions. This sovereignty comes from developing a strong sense of self-worth that's internally generated rather than externally dependent. Building emotional resilience that allows you to handle rejection and criticism without falling apart. And creating a lifestyle that provides emotional fulfillment independent of any specific relationship or interaction. The third aspect is what psychologists call authentic confidence. This isn't arrogance, superiority, or false bravado. It's the quiet certainty that you can handle whatever social situation you encounter and that you have genuine value to offer others regardless of their initial reaction to you. Authentic confidence comes from competence and experience. As you practice these principles and see positive results, your confidence naturally increases. You know, you can create rapport with almost anyone, handle difficult people gracefully, and add value to any interaction. This knowledge gives you a relaxed confidence that others find attractive, but authentic confidence also includes humility and the willingness to continue learning and growing. You're confident in your abilities while remaining open to feedback and new perspectives. This balance of confidence and humility is incredibly magnetic because it signals both strength and wisdom. The fourth aspect is what researchers call contribution consciousness. Your primary focus shifts from what you can get from social interactions to what you can give. You become genuinely interested in helping others feel better about themselves, achieve their goals, and have positive experiences. This contribution consciousness isn't about people-pleasing or self-sacrifice. It's about understanding that the best way to get what you want socially is to help others get what they want. When you consistently add value to others' lives, they naturally want to add value to yours in return. This might involve helping someone solve a problem, making them feel heard and understood, introducing them to valuable connections, sharing useful information, or simply bringing positive energy to their day. The key is that your contribution is genuine and comes from abundance rather than neediness. The fifth aspect is what psychologists call social calibration mastery. This means you've developed the ability to read social situations accurately and adjust your approach in real time to create the best possible outcomes for everyone involved. You can quickly assess the energy and dynamics of any social environment and position yourself appropriately. You understand what's needed in each moment. Whether it's humor to lighten the mood, serious attention to address important issues, or quiet presence to allow others to express themselves. This calibration ability comes from experience and awareness. You've practiced reading social cues, understanding different personality types, and adapting your communication style. You can now do this naturally without having to think consciously about techniques or strategies. The sixth aspect is what researchers call network leadership. You've become someone who adds value to your entire social network, not just individual relationships. You connect people who can help each other, share opportunities and resources, and generally make your social environment richer and more valuable for everyone involved. Network leaders are naturally magnetic because they're valuable to everyone they know. People want to maintain relationships with them because they consistently create opportunities for mutual benefit. They become central figures in their social and professional circles. The seventh aspect is what psychologists call emotional contagion mastery. You understand that your emotional state affects everyone around you, and you take responsibility for bringing positive energy to your interactions. You've learned to manage your own emotional state so effectively that you naturally elevate others' moods and energy levels. This doesn't mean being artificially positive or suppressing negative emotions. It means processing your emotions appropriately and choosing to show up with the energy that will best serve the situation and the people involved. Others feel better after spending time with you because of the positive emotional impact you create. The eighth aspect is what researchers call authentic vulnerability. You're comfortable sharing appropriate personal information and genuine emotions when it serves the connection and the relationship. You're not hiding behind a perfect image, but you're also not oversharing or making others responsible for your emotional processing. This authentic vulnerability creates deep connections because it gives others permission to be real with you. They feel safe dropping their masks and being authentic because you've modeled that authenticity is welcome and valued in the relationship. The final aspect of your transformation is what psychologists call magnetism integration. All these qualities have become so natural to you that you no longer think about being magnetic. You simply are magnetic because it's become your natural way of being in the world. You approach new people with genuine curiosity and interest. You handle challenges with grace and resilience. You add value to every interaction without keeping score. You maintain your emotional equilibrium regardless of others' behavior. You create positive energy wherever you go. This integration means magnetism is no longer something you do but something you are. It's not a performance or technique but the natural expression of who you've become through this transformation process. Others are drawn to you not because of what you're trying to accomplish, but because of who you authentically are. Your new identity as a people magnet is stable and sustainable because it's built on genuine personal development rather than manipulation or performance. You've become someone who truly does make others' lives better through your presence. And that authentic value creation is what makes you genuinely and permanently attractive to others. This transformation affects every area of your life. Your personal relationships become deeper and more satisfying. Your professional relationships become more productive and beneficial. Your social experiences become more enjoyable and meaningful. Most importantly, you feel more confident, authentic, and fulfilled because you're expressing the best version of yourself in all your interactions. The journey to becoming a people magnet is ultimately a journey to becoming the most attractive version of your authentic self. When you complete this transformation, you'll discover that the magnetism you've developed isn't something separate from who you are, but the natural expression of your best qualities shared generously with the world around you.